can we as historians design a virtual civil rights museum app that will preserve the Nashville influence on the civil rights movement? So throughout this whole process, I want you to think of yourself as an historian. The students are going to create a virtual museum app looking at the civil rights movements that happened in Nashville. So we're going to focus on the Nashville sit-ins, we're going to focus on the public desegregations of schools, and we're going to focus on what happened after the Nashville civil rights movement.
It was the most deeply rooted in nonviolence.
The app we're using is called Think Link. All the students find a background picture that relates to their topic. And then what they do is they tag different things on top of that background picture. So our entry event was a field trip to our Nashville Public Library, and there they have the Civil Rights exhibit.
I want you guys to look at the pictures, look at who's in the middle, look at who's on the sides, look at their faces, at their hands, and try to figure out what's happening.
We looked at some primary sources.
That is John Lewis about to get arrested, and he is telling the police his rights.
The kids were able to look at some artifacts and have a discussion about the things that happened during the civil rights movement here in Nashville. How do you feel about touching something that is almost 50 years old? History in the palm of your hand. My job as a teacher is to get them excited like I'm excited about the project. And that's one way to engage the students and get their minds to start thinking about what they're going to create. And now we're going to look at a particular book. This book is going to guide our work for our project. We started looking at the book March by John Lewis, and in this book he talks about his journey from childhood to the civil rights movement and the part that he played. And then it tells me the story is called March. So why do you think the authors did it that way?
To show you the point of view of how it started off when he was marching.
Okay, so you think he's giving us his point of view. Oh, he said point of view. Let's talk about point of view. What types of point of view do we have?
First person.
So first person, second person, third omniscient. So I thought that would be a really good idea if we read his book to get our minds set on what actually happened in Nashville. We got to create our need to know list. And then we created our need to know list. This is the things that they want to know from reading about John Lewis from our field trip.
What's your question?
How was John Lewis remain a devoted advocate of the philosophy of nonviolence?
This is a list what they want to find out at the end. So we're going to go through that list. We're going to mark through the things that we found out. We could always add to the list. The clock is a way for my students to collaborate and talk to each other. So what I do is we set appointments.
I learned that the lunch counter, the lunch counter we were sitting at was the lunch counter in the sit-in.
So it's just a way for them to get feedback, talk to each other, get them to move, stay on topic, but talk to one of your classmates. So that's why I use the clock. I want you to take about a few minutes to journal down what did you learn, how was the experience, what did you like, what did you want more of. So just reflecting is a big part for me because that gets them to think. During this time in my classroom, I have different levels of students where they're at, and this book is a kind of a higher level book. So they read silently, and after they read silently, they journal about what they learned. And I think reading and writing go hand to hand. That has them be able to retain the information about the book.
This was the first day of school in Nashville in 1957. This was the first day that African American children and white children went to school together.
We invited Dr. Melnick from the Historical Commission, and she was able to take what we had already learned and add to it.
This lady right here with the glasses, this is Diane Nash.
I did like the fact that she did bring in some more primary sources and pictures, which was very enlightening for our kids. Explain to me how that photo goes with your topic, because I see Martin Luther King and they look like Lyndon B. Johnson. So does that go with school segregation? So that means this is a scratch. I think having her there actually helped me as a teacher realize that my students were kind of off topic a little bit. So with me having to do a checkpoint saying, okay, let me look at your pictures to see, are you kind of on the same pathway that she was on? And my kids wasn't. During our work time, the kids continued to work on the app, adding their tags, adding more information to what they want to display for their virtual museum app.
My topic is Nashville sit-ins, and I chose this background picture because it's showing a really detailed sit-in that they did.
They also did a charrette protocol, and with a charrette protocol allowed them to talk to a peer that's not on their team and get feedback. What do I need to add to my app? What do I need to delete?
This is interesting because how you put pictures on where you can see most.
The presenter is now listening to all this feedback and suggestions, and this gives the students an opportunity to get feedback other than from an adult.
I chose this background picture of the citizens because this tells you about the citizens and they're not using violence. This is where they learned their techniques on how to not be violent.
We had a panel today of 6 people. I had one person from our school, which was our media specialist. I had 2 historians, a TSU professor, and Dr. Melnick, who was here with us before from the Historical Commission. And then I had 3 central office people. One worked with technology, one was from the STEM department, and the other is from our social studies department. I asked them to come in and listen to the kids present.
I wonder if you guys are aware that many of the freedom riders are still around.
And my expectation was for them to use the presentation rubric from the Buck Institute and give the kids feedback.
You've made it really relevant and easy to navigate around with all the images, the pictures, the videos that you found and you put right in there. So
I think that's the most important part for the kids, because now it gets me to thinking, using that feedback that you got from your peers and from the panel, what do you want to change before you submit it to me for a grade?
What I learned from this was that Nashville has a lot of history, and it's not all about country music.
Benefit for me to have them present in front of a panel is to showcase themselves. I think sometimes the kids that I service don't have that opportunity to shine.
Many of the sites that are important in the story are still around. You can visit the public square where Diane Nash confronted Mayor West. And it's real interesting because when you go to these places, you get a kind of a sense of what they went through.